Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to everyone joining the live stream. I will call to order this public hearing to consider an amendment to bylaw 2-10, the Rothsay zoning bylaw, to rezone lands located at School Avenue and Caitlin Street, PIDs 3016708 and 301-46674, and these will be shown on the map here. From single-family residential standard zone R1B to multi-unit residential R4 to allow for a 54-unit townhome development, subject to the execution of a development agreement in accordance with Community Planning Act, SUPRA. So just the procedure tonight, I will review the documentation, and then the developer, Stephen Maltby, will present his project, and we'll take questions from council. Town Manager Jarvie will appear for the town and questions from council. I will then call for those wishing to speak against the project, and then those wishing to speak for the project. And if there are any objections, I will allow the developer to have the last word, and we will then adjourn the meeting. And then council will not be considering this proposal this evening. So the documentation, the town clerk prepared a memorandum advertising the meeting, and it was posted twice to the website. It was also posted to social media on October 30th, November 1st, 7th, 9th, 15th, 17th, and 20th. You have the draft bylaw 2-10-36, and you have a draft development agreement. You have a recommendation from the Planning Advisory Committee, November the 15th, and a staff report to the Planning Advisory Committee, November the 3rd, and no comments were received on the proposal. And so with that, I will ask Stephen Maltby, the developer, to present his proposal, please.
Can I advance the slides from here? Okay. Good evening, Mayor Grant, council, staff, and citizens. My name is Stephen Maltby. I'm the owner-operator of MR Investments, Inc., a real estate development company operating here in Rothsay. Tonight, I'll be presenting an opportunity for the development of a new residential subdivision in our town, Glengarry Estates. It will address the need for more housing in our community. More specifically, it will provide much needed options for both longtime residents looking to downsize and young families searching for their first home. We are all well aware of the many housing challenges our country is facing coast to coast, and we're not immune here at home. The challenge in Rothsay is that there are very few housing options for seniors looking to downsize and young families seeking home ownership. So the question is, do you know how many homes are currently for sale in Rothsay? 15. This was the number on November the 15th when my presentation was presented for tonight. How about the average price of currently listed home in Rothsay? Over $700,000 was the average price of a home currently listed in MLS in Rothsay on November the 15th. That's not a lot of options for existing residents who are looking to find a new home that meets their current needs while also staying in our community. And it's not a lot of options for newcomers wishing to enjoy the many benefits our town has to offer. And let's not forget about our kids who might want to settle down with their young families. For a significant portion of our citizens, with an average home price over $700,000, this means home ownership is simply not attainable. There definitely is an opportunity, however, to make this better. Tonight, I'm asking for your support of our townhome subdivision, Glengarry Estates. We envision Glengarry Estates as a community where attainability is at the heart of every home we build. It's a place designed where seniors can embrace a new chapter without forfeiting the comforts they've earned, where young families can put down roots in an environment that's as nurturing as it is secure, and where ease and accessibility come standard with one-level living. Our focus is on making such an inclusive community a reality for our citizens, where every generation can find a home that fits their lifestyle and budget. As recognized earlier, everybody is well aware of the many housing challenges currently facing all Canadians. Just recently, the CMHC warned all of us of the significant challenge ahead. Canada will need 3.5 million more units on top of what's already being built by 2030. We were also recently reminded that the cost of housing, whether home ownership or renting, is getting very expensive. New Brunswick is not immune to this housing crisis. We too are feeling the effects of housing shortages. Since COVID, we have seen a record number of people continuing to move in our province. And as the Telegraph Journal reported, between July 2021 and 2023, New Brunswick's population grew by 41,000. That's the same amount of growth in 2 years as our province experienced in 37 years between 1979 and 2016. Many Canadians from Ontario and other parts of Canada, along with immigrants from around the world, are starting to recognize the value that we have to offer, and is driving up both the demand and cost for housing of all types. And it is not going away anytime soon. As an example of the impact of the increased population, the Greater St. John area will need to sustain 1,500 new housing starts per year. Currently, that number sits at 670 new starts in 2023. So there's a lot of hard work ahead, and it's going to take an unprecedented effort from government, developers, and builders. In our own town, we have very limited options. Of the 15 homes currently listed for sale in Rothesay, there were only 3 under $400,000. And these 3 homes were built in 1960, 1974, and 1975. It's apparent we need more homes for downsizers, young families, and those looking for one-level living. I realize that what I'm sharing tonight is not a surprise. It's not a surprise to our town staff and council. Earlier this year, our town submitted an application to the federal government's Housing Accelerator Fund for $5.6 million to support infrastructure and housing development. As a developer, I'm hopeful this request is realized. Just a few days ago, it was announced that Moncton received $15 million from this very same fund. As you can see in this Telegraph Journal article published on September 17th, Mayor Grant specifically pointed out there is a need in our town for housing that, 1, addresses the missing middle, and 2, makes effective use of existing infrastructure, i.e. infill development. That is exactly what our development, Glengarry Estates, will achieve. We'll increase density in an area that is perfectly situated as we capitalize on the existing infrastructure. And our new development will consist of the types of homes that are considered the missing middle, townhomes. With 2 different models, Glengarry Estates will provide homes that offer longtime residents and downsizers one-level living. Also, homes will also offer 2-level living for families and first-time homeowners. These homes will be homes that are attainable. So what does attainable mean? It means that people would be able to move into a home that is more affordable than a detached single-family home. They are homes that will have mortgages that are similar to 2-bedroom apartment rentals. There are homes that would be an option for young families with full-time employment earning $20 to $25 an hour. There are homes that will allow seniors to sell their existing homes and move into homes that match their current needs without leaving the town of Rothsay. Our proposal is to develop a subdivision consisting of the missing middle in an area that has been designated by council for medium density residential development. As you can see on the future land use map from page 126 in the municipal plan, Glengarry Estates is proposed for land that is next to existing townhomes and would be located in the heart of a much wider medium density designated area of our community. So if you can see where I wrote on it or highlighted it, that's where we're proposing. To the left of it are townhomes on Caitlin, and to the right is future development for medium density housing. And this is page 37 of the municipal plan that clearly outlines the details of medium density housing and its associated benefits. Currently, only 3% of the entire landmass in Rothsay contains medium density housing. And this is exactly why it's called the missing middle. The home in this picture is an actual picture of one of the garden homes on Caitlin Street, which connects to our property that we wish to develop. Can you? Oh, there we go. So our request. We request approval of a rezoning and subsequent development of a 54-unit townhome development on land that has already been designated, thoroughly investigated and designated for medium density residential development as recognized in the municipal plan. In our subdivision, there will be 8 blocks. Each block will have either 6 or 7 units within it, and there will be as mentioned before, there will be a mix of 1-level and 2-level units. So what is our motivation? Infill development, increased density, and reduced footprint are all necessary if we want to address our housing needs. And when I think about our proposal and its potential, I think back about my own personal housing situation as a young family. I remember how stressful it was renting a 2-bedroom apartment in uptown St. John with my wife and then 18-month-old daughter. We had tenants living above us, and unfortunately, my daughter was colicky. So each night when she woke crying, the tenants would stomp on the ceiling above our bedroom and scream to have us quiet our daughter. It was awful, and it caused a lot of stress for all of us. It is one of our goals to prevent this from happening to others. By building attainable housing, we seek to provide young families with their own home for a similar cost of renting a new 2-bedroom apartment in the valley. Except it will have a backyard, a place for a barbecue, and the peace of mind that their child can cry without bothering anyone. To summarize, this development is important for many reasons. It addresses the need for housing in general. It answers our Prime Minister's call to action. It answers our Mayor's call to action for missing middle and infill development. It provides housing that is attainable. Provides an option for downsizing for young families and for first-time buyers versus renting. And it makes effective use of existing infrastructure. Glengarry Estates complies with and is supported by the municipal plan, is supported and recommended by the staff, is supported by local residents after face-to-face visits, and it's time. A comparable model in Rothsay is Shadow Hill, which was established 40 years ago in 1983. Thank you for the opportunity to present Glengarry Estates.
Thank you, Mr. Maltby. I will open it to questions from council. Councillor Shea?
I just have the one question. Thank you for your presentation. I think before PAC, you had indicated this was going to be a several-year construction phase with several phases. Would those phases be continuous, i.e. like over 7 years, but steady, or do you see it as 2 years, and maybe a year break and 2 years again down the road?
No. So to answer your question, Our intention is to have this completed within 36 months after approval,
The whole thing?
the whole thing.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yep, thank you for your presentation and, thank you for identifying the need for these units in our community. It's definitely a need. There's townhomes are few and far between, and this is an excellent idea that you're presenting. One question or two questions I had. One was you have the different blocks and you have buildings A and buildings B. So I'm assuming that the one levels are the ones that are sort of the option B, which is the front few streets, and then building up to level twos?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, that's good. And the second one is just looking at the conceptual plan. I know there's limited space on the one end, but the trail comes really close to the buildings. I guess, was there an option to move the trail a little bit outside to give the backyard, I guess, a little bit more room in those areas, I guess?
Yes, I'm actually working with staff on moving. There is some flexibility, and Mr. Jarvie could also answer that question, but we did look at how we could make the rear yard bigger.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Councillor Lewis, Councillor Boyle,
Yep.
Councillor Brown, any questions?
My light's on.
Councillor Lewis?
Just on the single level units, what's the square footage?
We're anticipating around 1,500 on one single level.
And what about the two level?
The two level could be a similar. We're testing from 1,200 to 1,500 square feet, whether it's one level and or two levels.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
My question is with seniors, if we have older people that are moving out of their house to move into somewhere, are these obviously not going to be barrier-free units for the seniors, but is there going to be some provision? So if somebody did wind up in a wheelchair or something like that they would be able to live there without having to move again, I guess would be, like wider doors, wider hallways, anything like that? Is there provisions for some stuff like that? Or my fear is if the elderly people move somewhere, think this is where we're going to spend our days, and then something happens and they have to move again or not maybe able to renovate or something like that.
Yes, so we are looking at making some of these units barrier-free, much like new multi-unit buildings that require or encourage some. And we are looking at doing the same thing because for the same reason you're suggesting, we're trying to address a concern, and that is, where does our seniors go? Where can they go in our community without having to leave, but have the home that works for them? And so instead of going 90% of the way, we're going to try to go 100% of the way for those people. Because I think of my mother, for example, who lives in a 2-level home by herself. And eventually that going upstairs to the one bathroom and to the bedroom doesn't work. So yes, we're having an open mind, but that is the audience we're targeting. And we're going to try to make it such that when they move in, they can stay.
Thank you.
And along that same line, is it proposed that property care will be part of this?
Yes. Yes, like a home ownership association where the services will be a provided package. There will be a fee, like a home ownership fee. And I did meet with the people at Shadow Hill to understand how they've been doing it. They've been 40 years doing it. And I spoke with the gentleman that's been in charge of it. And they've probably got one of the best methods of organization and making sure that their community is well serviced and everybody understands the services that they are receiving and what they're responsible for. So I'm going to be leaning on them to help with that. But to answer your question, yes.
Okay, good, thank you. Anyone else? So I will ask Town Manager Jarvie to speak for the town, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Staff have reviewed this proposal and worked with Mr. Maltby on some of the details. And what's up on the screen now is the parcel of land at the foot of School Avenue. The row of houses at the right of the land is Caitlin Street. And there is municipal water in Caitlin Street, so this site can be serviced. The path that you saw on the previous diagram, did you bring that up, Mike? It runs over a sanitary sewer, a trunk sewer that comes from the Wisbam-Sis sewer lagoon. And we expect that servicing of this property is relatively straightforward. Also paralleling the path and the tracks, the Salmon Creek runs there, and with some detention to keep the land, to keep the banks stable, we would be able to drain the lands directly into Salmon Creek and from there down to the river. So there's no drainage issues as far as surrounding land is concerned. The site is serviced. There's a road network there. And one of the advantages of this site as far as long-term development is the possibility of extending east, or what is left on this figure. And eventually that would allow us to connect roads. Some of the roads like Jones and Ellis that are further east, so we would get more than one entrance into this neighborhood. Right now we're limited to a single entrance. So we've reviewed the project, prepared the development agreement that you have in your package. The developer would be responsible for all the costs to connect to the services and to develop the roads and the services on site. We've had comments from the fire department, and I'm not sure about the police, but the fire department, and there doesn't seem to be any issues there. So from the staff standpoint, this project meets, and we agree with Mr. Maltby's presentation, this meets a need in the community. It's a need that otherwise isn't being addressed right at the moment, so we would support the project. The Planning Advisory Committee has voted to support the project. You see the recommendation in your package. And so ultimately, the motions that would be in front of you would be to support the rezoning of the two parcels together, both owned by MR Investments, from the current zoning to R1B to R4 multi-unit. There's also the requirement for a development agreement that you'll be asked to authorize, and can we bring up the next one to that? The dark green on this sketch shows the land that the developer proposes to give to the town as part of land for public purposes. So there's a requirement for land for public purposes. This is not land that'll be used for play fields or anything like that in its current state, and this won't change. The Salmon Creek runs through this land, so this is primarily a buffer from the railroad, and does allow, as I was saying earlier, an opportunity to manage the drainage. To the question about the Deputy Mayor's question about the trail lying close to the back of the properties, the trail sits on the easement for the sanitary sewer main. However, we think there is room to move the trail itself. We wouldn't be moving the main, but we could move the trail a little bit toward the creek and make for better backyards in a couple of those units. I think that's all for now. Your worship, I can try and answer questions if council has them.
Okay, open it for questions, council. Councillor Shea?
Just the one question, John, you mentioned the possibility of taking, I take it to be stormwater or whatever, over to Salmon Creek. Is that?
Well, maybe I'll point out Salmon Creek. This is Salmon Creek running here. Goes under the tracks here. Under the tracks here and then down. So That's essentially what we're talking about. Is we don't put storm drainage into the creek, with the proper drop structure and so forth.
So the infrastructure under the tracks is already there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. Just looking at the developer's agreement, item number 3, it states that the developer agrees that only Caitlin Street shall be used for all construction machinery, heavy equipment, and related construction vehicles during weekdays from September until June inclusive. But I guess how are they going to get to Caitlin Street? Because Caitlin runs at the back. So are they accessing it via Isaac Street or School Avenue?
It would be Isaac Street.
Okay.
The concept there is that we do have, the children are in school from September until June. And there would be, the traffic is congested there as it is. We think that moving construction traffic in the immediate vicinity of the school is bound to cause some safety issues and some problems. Some of which perhaps would be just traffic congestion, but there's also certainly a safety issue. So the developer, Mr. Maltby, has agreed that that's a reasonable approach.
Okay, and then to the town engineer, I guess, just looking at the water supply, sanitary, and fire water supply, I'm assuming that we have ample supply for all of that, correct?
Through your worship, at this point, yes, that's the assumption. The calculations haven't been done yet, but
Yep.
we anticipate that that will be
Okay.
fine.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I will now then call for anyone wishing to speak against this proposal. Would you come to the microphone and state your name, please?
My name is Russell McDonald. I live at 30 Caitlin. I'm not necessarily completely opposed to the project, but I do have some questions on it. I had never received a letter in the mail, which I thought was surprising. The reason I knew about it is I don't go check the town website every day, but Counselor had told me that this meeting was going on tonight. But coming down Isaac, coming out of Isaac in the morning is almost impossible now. You're showing the road going up School Avenue, which is going right by the school, which joins onto Isaac. Where's all the traffic going to go? Are we going to have traffic lights on the Good Old Point Road and Isaac? Because right now, getting out of there in the morning is impossible because even though you're supposed to be going 30 down Good Old Point, nobody goes 30 down Good Old Point. So I don't know if that's been addressed. I'm assuming it has, but I didn't hear anything about it tonight. So I just had some concerns about the traffic, not so much on the construction side, because I mean, it's construction. But afterwards, when there's 58 new residents in pretty much less of a footprint than what our Caitlin townhomes are, over 24 units.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I think maybe I'll ask town manager if he'll respond to that.
Well, there's a couple of things, Your Worship. I think the point's well taken, and I'm sure a number of people in the room have that same question. We think the traffic volumes in that area are sufficient now, even without this development, to generate the need for some traffic control. So some sort of a traffic control device. Now, the exact location we're still looking at, and there may be a better location than the Isaac Gondola Point intersection that would still relieve the traffic there. So that's one aspect. And that wouldn't wait until the end of this project necessarily. Could be sooner than that. The other thing was what I mentioned earlier. We are in a little bit of a thing now where we can introduce traffic signals, but we still only have one way in and out of that subdivision. So this project, in the opinion of staff, would be the first step in getting us an alternate exit. An alternate exit can be valuable from a number of standpoints, certainly in case of emergencies and traffic congestion and so forth. So that's kind of the long view, is that there will be ultimately an alternate way of getting in and out of the subdivision. But in the short range, we'd be looking at some kind of traffic signal somewhere in the Gondola Point, Vincent Road to Isaac Street area, most likely.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak against the project? Yes, could you come to the microphone, please?
Hi, my name is Tracy Davis, and thank you for the opportunity to ask a question, and thank you for the presentation, for the information. It's nice to have that context. I just want to reinforce the point about traffic and congestion, just to add into perspective that we have probably around 50 plus houses right now in the Isaac, Page, Caitlin area, and it's a small footprint for those homes on Caitlin. So we're looking to add 54 homes with just say 2 vehicles per home. Then you're looking at, you're looking at doubling the traffic that's already there. And I just want to put it in perspective as well to add context for the traffic side that you have school buses and you have a lot of people with the work rushes like leaving early in the morning. So it is already quite congested on top of activities such as like construction further down Clark Road where it intersects with Gondola Point. I believe they're looking at adding a traffic signal of some sort of there as well. So I appreciate that there is a gap and like a real need for seniors and the homes that were mentioned. I don't believe that the area that we're looking at would solve all of that without really impacting the people who do live in that area as well. I am new to Rothesay. I've only been living here about a year, but what I love about it is that it feels like a small community with all of the amenities, but you keep that small community feel with the pockets of subdivisions that we have because they aren't expansive or mass traffic volumes. And, you know, we're fortunate to have the school where we do, but it's also a great location because it's at the beginning of the subdivision from a traffic congestion standpoint for those of us back, but for buses and everything. So I just wanted to add that context for some sort of additional food for thought as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So traffic concerns. Is there anyone else wishing to speak against the project?
Hi, my name is Wendy Barrett. I live at 33 Isaac. I have a couple of things actually. This is being referred to as affordable housing. Can you give me some idea of what you're looking at real estate cost for these to sell them?
Yes.
Yes.
Affordable is not, I didn't say affordable. I don't want to confuse it with affordable. I said it's attainable housing. Okay, so affordable housing, according to CMHC, is 30% of pre-tax income. This doesn't meet the qualification for affordable housing.
Okay.
But we're looking to build these homes for in the low $400,000 range.
Okay, so in your presentation, you said majority of the homes in the valley are now selling for, or Rothesay, sorry, are selling for the 700,000 range. I would dispute that the homes in this district that you're looking at are selling at that price. We've had a couple within the last few years that have sold for 400 or up. Most of those homes are 300 or lower. This property is going to immensely impact our property taxes. Which, I mean, if we build in there and there's other residential homes that may or may not have the same impact, it's hard to say. But when you're looking at building 54 homes at 400,000 plus, it's definitely going to impact our taxes. So that's one thing I have. The other question is, I'm not sure that it's actually attainable housing. I'm speaking from a personal perspective. I have a parent who has been looking for somewhere to go as a senior. This is not affordable housing for seniors. I work in the community. I deal a lot with seniors. It's not affordable housing for any of the seniors that I work with in the community. They're all saying the same thing now. Where do we go? We can't downsize because we can't afford to rent. We can't downsize because to buy something new is more expensive than what we have. So we have to stay where we are, which isn't feasible. So I'm not sure that I agree with being attainable for housing for seniors. Maybe townhouses, I don't know, but yes, we need housing. Not sure that I think this is the answer for that area. I also agree that traffic is a huge issue and it's a safety risk for the schools, for the school. And it doesn't matter which way you go through. I mean, you're taking, she said there's roughly 50 houses in that area now. Most houses have 2 cars, building 54 more units. That's another 108 cars minimum. So now we've got a surplus of vehicles. a huge influx of people, which means traffic itself, not just people living there, visitors, guests, delivery trucks, yada, yada, yada. It's just a huge influx on traffic, which is more, again, putting a risk at the kids, because that subdivision alone has a huge amount of kids in there, just in the residence, let alone not the school. So that's my concerns, I guess.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak against the project? Second time, is there anyone else wishing to speak against the project? Third and final time, is there anyone else wishing to speak against the project? Hearing none, I will call for people wishing to speak in favor of the project. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the project? Yeah. If you would state your name, please.
Yes, my name is Shirley Gokin, and I live on Caitlin Street, very close to the end of the street. And I am very much in favor of this project. I think the days of getting a home for $200,000 are over. And $400,000 is not unreasonable for young families especially. And seniors have their own homes that they're selling and their savings and investments. And I'm sure that it's very attainable for a great majority of seniors. So I really am in favor of this project. I think it makes a home for young families far more attainable and accessible. I have my own grandson who's saving for a house now, and he keeps saying, Nan, I don't understand how I'm ever going to be able to afford a home if they're $600,000 and $700,000. But this is the type of housing that we need. It's really good for the town. I mean, it's 54 more homes that you're going to have on your tax base. I think it's a great concept for young families and seniors to live in close proximity, to be able to enjoy each other. If you're living in a house on a 3/4 acre lot, you're going to put up a fence, you're going to have your pool in the backyard, and you're not going to bother with any of your neighbors. I live in that kind of housing that is being proposed, and it's a really nice community. You just feel a part of your neighborhood and your community. It's a great concept. And I think a good marketing strategy is going to attract good people. And I don't see anything better for the town of Rothesay than to have this type of development and that atmosphere. So I'm very much in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the project? Jeff, can you take the microphone?
Hi, how are you doing? Jeff Sear. I'm the executive director of our economic
I'll give you
intelligence.
10 minutes.
Oh, I won't take 10 minutes. Don't worry.
We heard you before.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll be quick. But with Vision St. John, I'm just here to speak in favor of the project. We work with developers in the region, and we work quite a bit on trying to understand the regional housing market and what the challenges. And quite frankly, it's not news, but we're certainly in a housing crisis. We've heard talk about unprecedented demand. Last year, we grew by about 3,000 people regionally, and we built about 600 homes. We doubled going into 600. We doubled what we built a few years ago. We probably need to get to 1,500. We need the support of every developer we can in the region. If we're going to get anywhere near close to that, we're probably running at about 40 to 50% of where we need to be as a region right now. So it's an immense hill to climb. But it's been a bit of a perfect storm. We've been hit with significant increased construction costs rapidly over the last 3.5 years. We've seen about a 40 to 60% increase in the cost to build homes, which is a significant challenge when you factor in that incomes have gone up about 8%. Interest rates for people looking to buy homes, average household makes about $90,000 a year in the region. when you factor in the change in interest rates, the buying power of that average household declined by about $80,000. So at the same time that housing prices have gone up about 50%, the ability for people to pay for it, they've lost about $80,000. So, we looked at numbers, 2019, we estimated typical single family home, new construction probably could hit the market 4 to 450. That same product in a very short period of time is now $600,000 to $650,000 per unit. It's gone from maybe 40 to 50% of the population being able to carry that mortgage to about 10 to 15. So we expect, as we've seen in other communities, that the model development might change and might have to adapt. One of the key ways a developer can make housing more affordable is density. So having more units spreads the cost of land, it spreads the cost of building the street infrastructure. Generally speaking, for a townhouse development like this, probably could mean anywhere between $50,000 and $75,000 less spent a unit. So the difference between $425,000 home and a $500,000 home for a first-time home buyer. Nationally, this is the trend. In terms of where the housing market has been going as a country, we've seen a 200% increase in apartment construction, a 60% increase in townhouse development, a 20% decrease roughly in semi-detached, and almost 50% decrease in single-family homes. And generally speaking, most of those have been on smaller and smaller lots. So, just in conclusion, generally speaking, what we're seeing preliminarily and what we're trying to advise municipalities is that the general form of housing and development that we see in the region may change. We may see a lot more townhouses, row houses, semi-detached, and fewer single families. It's been the trend in areas that have dealt with the affordability issue because the cost to build has jumped up so quickly in the past couple of years. It means that as a region, we've got to adjust to it overnight. And so with that, we're trying to encourage municipalities that, we might need to think about different housing forms than perhaps we may have used to. Obviously, you still need to find the right place and communities need to understand what they want, where they want it. But overall, from a market perspective, that's how we see attainable housing being achieved. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the project? Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the project? Third and final time, is anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the project? Hearing none, since there were some issues raised, I will give Mr. Maltby the final word here if he wishes to respond to those comments.
No, I appreciate the feedback and I recognize the concern for the traffic, undoubtedly. Just a few things, and our town manager touched on it briefly, in that as the land continues to be developed, as the future map shows, we are now eliminating what is currently a very long cul-de-sac, which in itself creates issues for safety, getting in and out, etc. With this proposal and the future development to come, we will remove that long cul-de-sac and eventually have another exit out of this community. So that would be one thing on the traffic. The other is this type of development is a little different than a multi-unit apartment building, for example, with let's say 54 units. When it's finished, boom, you get everything all at once. This development's over 3 years. It gives us time, as Mr. Jarvie had indicated, that there probably already needs some sort of traffic signal and control. And so we have the time to do what is necessary with regards to that as the traffic builds over 3 years. And that's it. I just want to say, truly, there's certainly a need for housing for young families and for seniors. Is there a perfect spot? There's only so much land available. This, I believe, in my opinion, this is a very, very good location. It has existing infrastructure. It has water, it has sewer. It's got the same type of housing adjacent to it. It has a school feet away, mere feet away for young families. It's got a well-known, well-used play area. It's got a walking trail for seniors, for young people. So I do believe it is a very good location for this type of development. And I'll leave it at that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, council. Thank you, folks, for coming and commenting. And with that, I will adjourn this public hearing.